Welcome to the Road to 100 Million in Real Estate podcast, where you'll benefit from the opportunity to learn to become a skillful real estate investor. You'll get guidance from top industry producers, operators, and investors who are eager to help you learn from their proven strategies of success. Now to your host, Dorrance Constant.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Road to $100 Million in Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Dorrance Constant. Super excited to bring you on another guest. Today we've got Vlad Arakcheyev. He's an active investor. Vlad, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me on.
For sure. So, Vlad, I'm sure folks are going to want to hear your story because you've got some interesting tales. So before I get into that, I want to let them know a little about you, okay?
Sure.
Well, Vlad is a co-sponsor with JV Partners in 500 plus multifamily units and land development, amounting to a multi-million-dollar portfolio. Vlad is in charge of Zontik Ventures, operations, and asset manager. He's a member of the National Real Estate Investor Network. Vlad has extensive experience in sales and marketing for residential and commercial real estate. Vlad has been leading direct marketing efforts as well as acquisition and disposition efforts relating to investing in distressed off-market property. Vlad is skilled in acquisition negotiation and multiple creative financing strategies. And as a real estate agent licensed in New Jersey, Vlad has developed an extensive network of investors, real estate agents, contractors, and other relevant parties. Again, Vlad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That's quite an intro. Wow.
Well, it's all about you, brother.
Thank you.
Well, Vlad, I got one thing for you, Vlad. You've got an interesting background, and I'm curious to understand, how has real estate impacted your life?
You know, I had a W-2, not anymore. I resigned. But I was a graphic designer and everything changed during COVID. I started thinking about basically controlling my own path and knowing when my next paycheck is coming from, because I got furloughed and I have a house, I have kids, 3 cats, got to feed those cats, right?
Right.
I have to do something. And then my wife suggested trying real estate. And that's exactly how it happened. I became an agent here in Jersey, started doing flips, doing some wholesaling. And then ultimately that led me to a path of multifamily investing because I wanted passive income. I wanted to have the true wealth, which in my opinion is the freedom of time. And that's my biggest goal, is to get that time to do when I want, what I want at any time I want. So that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. So I heard a gentleman say something to me, something like a short on YouTube, right? And it related to time freedom. Hey, if someone gave you $10 million today, would you take it? And the guy says, well, yeah. Well, if someone gave you $10 million and said you only have one day to live, would you still take that $10 million, right? And the idea of that is, hey, our time is more important than even money, right? So that's the true value, right? That we can spend our time how we want, whether it be with your family, whether it be with your wife, together, the 3 cats, but having that time freedom afforded is super critical, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Listen, we really trying to maximize our time with our families, to spend. I mean, if you think about it this way, right? When I had a W-2 and I earned my vacation, I still had to ask my boss for permission to take that vacation. And in many cases, I was told, no, you can't. It's the rollout or busy season. And I'm like, but I earned it, right? I want to go on vacation. I shouldn't be limited. So that really changed my perspective on the possibilities. So real estate opened the doors to everything, not only to be your own boss, but to have all this freedom that you can take advantage of.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's where it is. And I'm glad you took that step. Now, Vlad, you've got an impressive background. Did you just go from design immediately to large deals? Help us understand your pathway.
Yeah, not really, no. I mean, that was the ultimate goal, but we were too afraid because how can you take down large deals? I mean, they cost millions. I couldn't even imagine, because my mindset was not there. Everything is about your mindset. You got to just shift yourself mentally. I started doing what I thought I could do, is flipping, wholesaling, being a realtor, but ultimately you're doing the same thing. You working actively, because if you stop prospecting, the leads will dry out, right? You're not going to have any more leads. So you got to keep on actively calling, reaching out, flipping, speaking with brokers and attorneys and contractors. So ultimately it's also work, but it's just different type of work, right? But
Right.
I wasn't going for that. So I got few rentals here in Jersey. They worked out fine. It was okay. But I was self-managing, and I could not grow fast enough, right? So because let's say if I'm at the house trying to fix something, or like you said, chase raccoons off the roof, yeah, I got those calls, or fix leaky toilets, who's going to prospect? Who's going to look for more deals? How am I going to grow? So that led me into multifamily, where I visited a conference in Houston. It opened my eyes into possibilities of multifamily, working in a team together. Everybody was so inviting and welcoming. And they're like, here's my phone number. Call me at any time. Let's partner together. And it's very unusual, because typically in single family space, there is no partners. You're kind of all by yourself. That's how I was anyway. But now everything is a partnership when it comes to multifamily, because like I'm in Jersey, and one asked me, how can I buy properties in Texas? And I'm like, easy. I got a person boots on the ground in Houston and Dallas. They can walk a property literally within an hour. So it's just that easy. Connect with people, partner with them, and then you can make it happen. But just one quick thing on that is education is very, very important. In my opinion, you can educate yourself with books, podcasts, YouTube videos, of course. But if you join a mentorship, that's how it was in my case. I joined the mentorship. I joined Jake and Gino multifamily community, and really accelerated my growth a lot, because I immediately connected with people in Texas, in Kansas, in the Carolinas, and that opened up all the doors. They welcomed me, and we were doing deals together. So education is huge, and of course networking. That's I guess second best, if you can call it that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate what you mentioned when you talk about actually having a mindset shift, right? It's easy to potentially to think small because things seem accessible. But what I've also learned, Vlad, is often when we're thinking small, we're in a space of higher competition where things can be that much more difficult, and our energies have to be exacerbated that much more because we're essentially competing amongst the 90 some odd percent of folks. But when we shift our mindset, we can be focusing on things that can provide higher rewards, help more people, and frankly, less competition can even come from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you think about it, just to give you an example, let's say your goal is 10 doors or 10 single family houses. You have to have 10 closings to have those. You have 10 different roofs. They in 10 different locations. You can buy one multifamily. It's one closing, one space, one roof, one HVAC, one everything. Everything is in one area. So it's easier to manage and easier to control. And at the same time, if you think about it, let's say you have a duplex and somebody moves out, then there you go. You have the income coming in, right? What if two people move out? What if they don't pay? Then you got zero coming in. It's all on you. But if you buy, let's say, 100-door property and two people move out, you'll be like, it's no big deal. Because you're already underwriting that you're going to break even, let's say, at 80% occupancy. So you're not really feeling the if somebody moves out. In fact, I'll give you another one. You kind of expect those people to move out, right? If they don't move out, that means your rents are too low. You can hike up the rents even higher. So, that's just one of the things that I've noticed when it comes to multifamily. Yeah.
Absolutely, because essentially what we're buying Vlad, is a business that's backed by real estate, right? And we're buying a scaled business. And I would say the idea behind that, you started mentioning some of the homes, right? Buying 10 homes. So to make it even simpler to folks, would you rather manage 100 pennies or $1 bill, right? Which one is easier for you to manage? So
that's a great example.
So that's an example that I use often just to talk about, the idea and the potential behind going bigger and how much easier potentially, or simpler, I should say, potentially it could be. And you mentioned something huge, which was going out there and networking, right? Going out there and networking so you can build partnerships in this business. This business is about partnerships, right? So if you're going to be taking down deals that are, 10 million, 20 million, up to the hundreds of millions of dollars, you're going to have partners that can bring together value and spread that value amongst each other.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things where you don't have to do everything. You don't have to wear all the hats. You do what you're good at. Or actually, let me rephrase, what you're great at. Because you can find a partner that has opposite skills of yours. Like, for example, do I do underwriting? Not really. I can, but I don't. It takes me longer than a good underwriter who's good with numbers, who's doing great with spreadsheets. Typically, it takes me, I don't know, few hours to underwrite. A good underwriter can underwrite in 30 minutes, maybe an hour, right? So just to give you an example, of course. So I'm focusing on what I'm good at, right? So I'm finding deals because I've taken my real estate side, my realtor side, and my dialer and my texting and everything, and I shifted it into multifamily. So I'm going direct to seller, and that works. Also, I'm reaching out to brokers, and I'm raising capital. So these are the three things that I do, and they work for me. For some people, they might be more introverted. They don't like to be out there as much. They don't like to, ask for money because they just kind of don't feel comfortable, which is perfectly fine. So they can look for deals. They can underwrite. They can asset manage, right? And you just partner with those people, see if you click, and really go into deal with them. But make sure you give it time, though. Don't just jump into a partnership right away. Vet your partners. All my partners, I know them for 8 months to a year at least. Just think about this. If you're buying a property, you're going to be in it for, I don't know, 5 years. Let's just say 5 years for the ease of numbers. So you're going to have to speak with that person every single week for 5 years. Ask yourself, would you want that person in your life for 5 years? Mm-hmm. So it's a long-term relationship, really. So yeah, vet your partners, make sure you guys are clicking. Your personalities are gelling. And I give that example all the time. Let's say you work for 12 hours a day, and that other person works for 2 hours a day. Would you really want that person as your partner? So right. It's something to consider. It's really important to vet your partners.
Absolutely. And I would love to hear about your process, how you transition from doing, a few homes and then going into some of the bigger deals that you're currently in now. Would you tell us that story?
Yeah. I was doing that, and then my wife bought me tickets to. It's just crazy. She's like, "I'm buying you tickets, and we flying to this multifamily event." And I'm like, "What do you mean flying?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're going to this multifamily event in Houston." And I'm like, Houston, what do you mean flying? Please tell me it's somewhere like around New Jersey. And she's like, "No, we flying to Texas." So I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. And when I got there, I just saw a room of 800 people, and I was blown away. And people like, "Oh yeah, I got $5,000. I got 3,000." And I'm like, they're throwing all these numbers around, and I just can't comprehend this. But after you start speaking with people, and they're all approachable, you just say, "Hi, my name is Vlad. I'm new. Can I just listen in?" And they're all like, yeah, sure, come on in. into a conversation, and everybody's so welcoming. You know why? Because they all been there. It's a small community and everybody's been there. Everybody started from the very beginning. I was speaking with operators that have 20,000 doors of billions of assets. And now they know me by name, and I'm blown away by this because the community is there. All you have to do is put in an effort. Nobody's going to give you anything. You have to put in an effort. In the beginning, I used to go, you ready for this? 5 Zoom calls per day, every single day. So people would know my name. Every single day. I used to go to in-person event every day as well, at night at like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. locally. So people know what I do. So everything is there for you. You just have to shift your mind and really go after it. So that really changed my thinking. That event really changed my thinking. And then after that, I immediately started interviewing mentors or coaching groups. And like I mentioned, I joined Jake and Gino. It's a multifamily community. And that's where most of my partners come from. Now, of course, I expanded a little bit outward more. A lot of my partners are not in Jake and Gino, but I'm still keeping in touch with, of course, Jake and Gino community. And I think half of my partners are from Jake and Gino. Yeah. So
Fantastic. And take us back to you doing your first deal. You started mentioning that you're in marketing, capital raising, prospecting. Help us understand how you use those skill sets to bring you into your first few deals.
Sure. Yeah. The very first deal, I got offered to be a limited partner, so a passive investor. And ultimately, I didn't want to because I had enough knowledge and education to be a GP or co-GP. So, or at least have a joint venture or JV. So why am I saying this? Because I resigned from my W-2 and this was my life. Some people who have a W-2 can be an LP, still get all the benefits of multifamily, get the cash flow, the monthly distributions, tax savings, and everything if they don't want to. But on my end, I really wanted to be a GP. So I got offered an LP position in 200 doors in San Antonio. I told him no, I wanted to be a GP. So a few days later, I got a call back, and that person said, "Hey, listen, why don't you interview with the main sponsors and see if you can add some value to them?" And I said, "Sure, okay, let's do it." So we talked, and they needed investor relations person and also a person to raise capital. And that was me. So I got on my first deal to be a co-GP on the deal in San Antonio, and I tried to raise capital and, of course, work with investors. Now, you're going to ask me, how did that deal go? And I was just completely blown away because the numbers I was seeing were just huge. I mean, it was a $19 million purchase. And coming from single family space where my largest investment was $300,000, and now I'm at 19 million, I'm like, oh boy.
Right. Now you're playing with the big boys.
Yeah. It was quite a change. So
awesome. So you ended up raising capital. Was that help me understand what that process looked like when you raised capital? Was it a cinch? You raised $19 million on your first shot?
No, the raise was actually 7 million. We needed to raise 7. The thing is, it was incredibly difficult where not a single of my friends invested with me because they still kind of thought of me as maybe designer instead of full-time in real estate. And I kind of changed their mind by educating myself and always giving them advice. Like, oh, look what the rates are doing. Oh, look how the housing market is. Oh, look at this, look at that. And eventually they saw me as a serious multifamily investor. So they didn't invest in this deal. None of them did, which is okay. So it was incredibly difficult because the first raise is the most difficult one. Everybody says so, and it's true. I was everywhere. It was 506C, so I could promote it. So I was blasting it on Facebook, on social media, and going to webinars and talking about it and Zoom calls. And then I found one person who had money to place, and he liked the property, and he placed, I believe, 1.1 million.
Mm.
And I was blown away. I'm like, wow, this is like the craziest thing ever. And this one person kind of catapult. Is it luck? I don't know, or maybe my persistence. Call it anything. I mean, there's luck, a little bit of luck everywhere if you think
Sure.
about it. And that person kind of helped me to catapult and snowball, because after the first deal, you have the snowball effect where in next 6 months, I closed on 5 more deals.
Right.
So
Right.
because of this, everything just went an upswing after that.
That's awesome. And I wouldn't call it luck, Vlad. I think you're being a little humble.
I
So
mean, some people call it luck, some people call it persistence, some people call it, I don't know, everything. But there's always a bit of luck, I think, in everything. Some people say you got to be in the right place at the right time, or maybe it's karma or just kind of meant to be, just energy aligned, if you can look
absolutely,
at that.
absolutely, absolutely. But it sounds from what you told me, it sounds like you were getting out of your comfort zone, right? You took what I imagine what you saw at the time was a huge risk, right? Leaving your employer. You could have been there for who knows how many years longer. You went out and you educated yourself. You put yourself in rooms with people who knew more than you did, but remained humble, and you learned something, right? I'm sure you learned a ton. And so I
Yeah.
think all of those steps, all of those things created momentum for you to be in a space where you could have that kind of conversation that you had with that investor. And so that person could see the confidence and then turn around and invest in the vision that you were able to put out there. So congratulations to you on that first deal.
Oh, thank you. It was difficult, no question about it. But you know what it is? The biggest thing is the time, right? Because it took, let's say, nearly 8 months of underwriting daily, of looking at deals, of constantly, communicating with people, of being on podcasts everywhere, and you get nothing. And then boom, it hits. So it like, I'll give you an example. For some people, it takes a year and a half. For some people, it takes few months. But it's a long process. It's a long haul. You will not get rich quickly. And I'll give you another example. On few deals, actually on many deals that we've closed, I haven't seen a single distribution, a single payment yet, right? So you
Right.
have to set your mind that way, where even though you closed now, you're not going to see the money, let's say, in a year, maybe. On the deal that we closed in November, the distributions will start Q3 of second year. So it's almost 2 years without a single distribution. So you have to think about it that way, where you don't have the money now in your checking account where you technically want it, right? The money is out there. It's working for you. It's growing, but you just don't have them yet. You can't access them yet. So that's kind of my pathway of thinking about it. That's why I've learned from many operators. If you think about ground up development, right?
Mm-hmm.
Takes 3 years
Right.
to develop to build a building. You see zero, right? But at the end of 3 years or maybe 4 years, you see, quadrupling your investment. So it just really depends. So it's a long game. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Vlad, you've been on both sides. You mentioned you've been on the side of, investing in, single family homes. You've been on the side of investing in large properties. For those who are not wanting to go out there, let's say, do, the work of sourcing a property, managing a property, putting the entire deal together, what would you tell them to start? Would you say start with investing passively in homes or some of these larger properties?
Yeah, I would say invest in larger properties for sure, because technically, if you think about how housing market is, when it comes to housing market, single family houses, they're based on comps, right? So if the market drops, then this house will drop too, because it's based on comps. Multifamily is based on income, right? So if we raise up the rents, the income, the NOI goes up, so the value of it is higher. And also, even at these times where we're in a different market cycle, if you look at it and we have more vacancy, but still it's okay because we fixed our debt, right? We have
Right.
Freddie debt, we fixed it, and we know we locked it. I'm sorry. So we know what the returns are because we underwritten the whole deal already. So even if few people move out and we have some vacancy, we still cash flowing positively. And if you think about it this way, people cannot buy a house, which is okay, fine, they cannot buy a house, but they got to live somewhere, right? It's a basic human need. Food, clothing, apartments, they have to live somewhere. They're not going to be homeless, so they have no choice but to rent from you. So, in my opinion, it's a basic human need. You have to live somewhere. So, investment in something that's like an apartment complex where you can, in my case, fly out to Dallas and you can touch it and you can say, I'm an owner of it. It doesn't matter if you're active or passive. I want to be passive too, because you sit there, do nothing, and you get all the tax benefits and you get the distributions. That's awesome. So that's why a lot of, let's say, in who I'm speaking with, like attorneys, IT people, engineers, doctors, they have capital to invest. Savings account is not, in my opinion, is not a good investment pathway because of look at the inflation and look what the savings is giving you. So in this particular case, you can invest 401k, self-directed IRAs, I mean, anything, 1031 exchanges, and invest in the syndications where your money is going to double in 5 years, right? So because the returns we're targeting is literally doubling your equity in 5 years, plus you have, in this particular case, monthly distributions, which is 7% cash on cash. So it's about $8,000 a year.
Absolutely.
$100,000 investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're talking about, and I completely agree with you. We're talking about a business that's already scaled, that has built-in clientele,
Yeah,
that's insured, protected, and it's one of the few things that I'll say that AI cannot replace.
yeah, that's true.
So we're always going to need shelter. So I'm in complete agreement with you. So we're kind of winding down, Vlad. You've been dropping some gems. It's been such a fantastic time into hearing your story. So Vlad, I'd love to hear, are you working on anything that our audience should know about?
Right now, we just closed on 120 doors in Dallas. The deals are, even though a lot of people say, hey, listen, look at this market cycle and look at the prices, deals are everywhere. Instead of taking loans from a bank, and I know the rates are much higher, we're working on loan assumptions. So we're assuming loans, we are asking sellers to carry some of that. That's how we creatively structure deals nowadays. We ask people or previous owners to assume their loans. But in a current deal, I'll just give you an example, literally just an example of the deal that we closed 30 days ago. It's in Dallas, cash flowing day one. Monthly distributions. We closed it. We raised 8 million, and we're very happy to run with it. And deals like that happen often. If you are looking to invest, please reach out, or at least if you're looking for advice, reach out. If I cannot help you, I'll make a connection because of the network and networking that I do. I know few people that do all types of investments, including land development and storage and RV parks, you name it, and they invest in all these things. I just choose to invest in apartments, and I love my multifamily, and my target market is Texas, like I said, Houston, Dallas. I do Kansas and the Carolinas. I really like those markets. I'm very excited for them. Landlord-friendly states, a lot of growth, a lot of jobs are moving there. Businesses are opening up there all the time. So I'm very excited for those markets and what's about to come.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Vlad, if folks want to reach out to you, right? I'm glad that you open yourself to that. What are the best ways for them to connect with you?
Yeah, of course. I'm all over social media, Vlad Arakcheyev. There's not a lot of Vlads out there. I think there's another guy somewhere. I don't know who he is though. But yeah, Vlad Arakcheyev. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and I'm about to do a YouTube channel. But yeah, reach out. You can check out my website, zontikventures.com. Sign up if you're looking for some sort of investment opportunities. They don't open up often, because our previous investors typically reinvest in our deals, but sometimes we have spots. So reach out.
Awesome. Well, Vlad, it's really been a pleasure having you on the show today. You've dropped a lot of gems. It's been exciting to hear about how you started and where you're at and essentially where you're going. So looking forward to staying connected with you. And thanks again for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
We trust that you enjoyed today's show. Visit archcapital.ventures to learn more about how you can leverage real estate investing to improve your life through passive income, financial freedom, and generational wealth.